You guys done chewing on the little nubs here? So my thing's always been, the hell with tradition. There might be a better way. And so everything with horses, once I learned how to bond with them like this, and once I learned their body language and actually got into riding and driving, and that's all secondary. This is why I interact with horses, for this. Riding and driving is secondary. So I look at things a little different than the average horse person, because I want to do, these are my pals out here. So in light of that, it's like, how can I cause them the least discomfort? And how can I make the experience as pleasant for them as possible? That's the tricky part. So I looked into everything, you know. The bridle, the head control device, be it a bit or a bow saddle or whatever. Shoes or barefoot, saddle with a tree or without a tree, all that stuff. And it takes a while. And when you first start riding, you have to do what whoever's teaching you how to ride, you got to do what they want you to do. It's just how it works. So you do that, and then once you are familiar enough and you're confident enough, you know, to advance a little bit, then you can start trying some of your own things and see if they work or not. Try to do what you can to keep a close bond with them, so they don't get, so the horses don't get pissed off at you. Because for me, riding a horse is kind of like riding a dog. I mean, they're not a dog, and their body language is different than a dog for the most part. So I'm not trying to equate them with a dog, but what I'm kind of saying is people who have dogs are more like to hang out with their dog and go on a walk with their dog, and they because you can't ride a dog, your dog's your companion. So you go out on a walk on the trail with your dog, it's you and your buddy, your dog, hanging out together. Well, that's how I view the horse relationship. They're my buddy, and going on a trail ride with them is one of the ways we hang out. So I want to make it as pleasant for them as possible. And you know, I even let them eat along the trail periodically. Now, you know, the trick to that is not you know, I don't let them just bend down and start eating in the middle of the trail. I know what their favorite plants are. Like, for instance, my friends had a horse here a few years back. His name was Strike. His favorite was red clover. So when I'd be up riding them, periodically, I mean every 10 minutes or so, I'd see a patch of red clover over here, and I'd steer them off the trail into the clover, and I'd let up on the reins, and I'd be like, take a bite, Strike. And he got in the habit of this, so he'd get do a little munching, he'd get a big mouthful. Then I'd pull back on the reins a little bit. And at this point, the other riders are up ahead a little bit, and I'd tell him, catch up. And then he would go into like a fast gait, and he'd catch up with everybody else. And after a while, it would get to the point where I didn't have to give him any rein cues or any kind of cues at all, except for by voice only. I could say, you know, once he saw I was steering him over somewhere, he'd start looking around, he'd see that patch of red clover, and then and he knew how long he had. It's like he wouldn't stay over long, just enough to get a few mouthfuls, and then I would pull the reins up a little bit, and I would tell him to catch up, and he would spin around and run over to the other horses, and then we'd go walk along with them for a while. So it is funny how fast they learn sometimes. But I started doing that because I want them to enjoy the excursion, and by letting them eat a little bit, You know, that's a little bit of an incentive to go out on the trail ride. Because otherwise, as I mentioned before, they don't like trail riding. They don't like being Trav. Trav's got to nose that thing every time he gets near it. Now maybe you got a horse that likes being ridden, then you're a very lucky person. Because I've never met such a horse. I read about one once. That was it. Oh, Fred, you're a good old boy. You're a good old boy, good old dusty boy. Well, I can't spend too much longer with him here because I got to get going home. I got to fire up the grill for me and my significant other. I always grill a steak for me and her every Sunday, so I got to get to that. But if it wasn't a Sunday, boy, I'd spend hours with these guys. There's times where if the weather's nice and the bugs aren't bad in the summer, you know, again, this is March, so bugs aren't really out yet. There's a few floating around now, but I'll spend hours with these guys. It's just relaxing. It's like I get into a zone, you know, it's like time stands still. And I think the worries and cares of this world are silenced. And you know, it's just me hanging out with them. It's a cool feeling. And there's nothing like it. I've had some similar experiences with cattle. I'll show y'all someday. I volunteer at a county park not far from my house that has cattle, and they can be pretty personable too. And dogs, of course, you can have quite a bond with them, and it's fun to hang out with them. But there's just something special about horses. The way they smell. I don't know. I mean, it's just, horses are a really special creature, and that's part of why we've developed such a close association with them for so many thousands of years. You're a good old boy, Trav. You're a good old boy. You're a good old boy. Alright, I'm going to end that there. I got to be heading home.